Today we found out how the BIBAS babies were killed. They were strangled. Hamas terrorists used their bare hands to strangle a baby and a toddler, and then mutilated their dead bodies to make it look like they died in an airstrike. More on that in a second. But first, I want to address the "what about all the children in Gaza that Israel killed? You don't care about them" brigade. You see, even amongst the lowest of the lows, it's really hard to justify what Hamas did to a baby and a toddler. So this is really all they can come back with. So I want to address it. The death of every single child is tragic, equally tragic. I have said that from day dot. And I believe that with every ounce of my being. But I reject entirely that there is any moral equivalence here in the actions of Hamas and Israel when it comes to children killed, and the notion itself that Israel killed them. Children in Gaza have only died because Hamas invaded Israel, murdered 1,200 people, stole hundreds more, then went and hid, not only themselves amongst women and children, when they weren't cowering in tunnels, but their weapons and rocket launch pads, bombs they used to try and kill Israelis. So Israel had to stop their own people from being killed. That is a nation's duty. They had to destroy the infrastructure used and the terrorists operating it and doing far, far worse. They had just suffered the worst loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust at the hands of an organisation that threatened publicly, openly and repeatedly to do the same thing over and over again. Israel went above and beyond what any other nation in the history of war has, and what they were required to do by law to reduce civilian casualties. That has been well documented with so much evidence. Children from Israel, well, they were brutally massacred, intentionally, in an unprovoked attack and over the months following. Again, the BIBAS babies were choked by the bare hands of Hamas. Even in the murderous killing of them, these terrorists could not offer these beautiful, innocent little babies some form of comfort, of mercy. They made sure they suffered beyond comprehension. Don't click away from this or move away because it's hard. Imagine your own child. Think of their fear and pain when they have to get something as routine as a needle as a baby, and how hard that is to watch as a parent. And even when they are held in your safe arms and you are comforting them and reassuring them and they're loved, their fear and pain is still profound. It stays with you. Even when your baby wakes up for a nap or from a sleep and they cry because they're afraid and they're alone and they momentarily don't know where they are, you run because the thought of them being anxious, even in their safe home, is unbearable. When they are sick and you can't relieve their symptoms, even if they're mild, your heart breaks, even though you know they're safe and they're loved. But the thought of even mild discomfort in a child, a baby, a toddler is gut-wrenching for most of us, for human beings with hearts and souls. Now, I want you to imagine your precious babies not only utterly confused and terrified, but having to experience the pain of being choked by masked men, gasping for air, looking for mum, probably after watching her be killed. It is incomprehensible how much that would have hurt. I know that feeling as an adult who at least had some ability to fight back. I cannot imagine a baby and a toddler. So again, the death of every child who has died since October 7 is an utter tragedy, but there are not two sides responsible for their deaths. Hamas has caused every single tragic loss of life, but in typical style, personally ensured that Israeli children were brutalized, tortured, and made to suffer in the most incomprehensible and inhumane way. Their own people, they were willing to at least give them a chance as human shields for themselves and their arsenal. Every death since October 7, every child in Gaza, every child in Israel, lays at the feet of Hamas. They are depraved and evil. They must be wiped out. If you waver even a little from this stance, you are complicit. And by waver, I mean if you are silent, you are complicit, let alone if you are a loud supporter. So I hope that clears up the morally bankrupt attempts to use the Hamas-caused deaths of Palestinians to excuse the cold-blooded murders of Israeli babies and toddlers.